I would like to welcome everybody back to another episode of the House of Bricks podcast. As you know, if you've been following our show, we featured some incredible athletes, NBA champions, Super Bowl champions, guys in the Hall of Fame at the University of Kansas. We feature top CEOs, keynote speakers, and really anyone that has a message and a story that is trying to inspire others to overcome whatever situation they're in they are in and use it for a positive. And today I am very excited to welcome our next guest, Kelley, whose journey to me is nothing short of inspiring. She's a transformational speaker. She's empowering other people through her coaching, and behind the brilliant and inspiring podcast called Addicted to the Climb, which fits exactly with what we're teaching people and inspiring people with the House of Bricks podcast. So Kelley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you here. And you and I were talking a little bit before the show, but why don't you tell our guests where you're from and a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm from Boston, Mass, where it's very cold right now and snowy, but it's all good. I love a good snowstorm. I am, like you said, the founder of Addicted to the Climb, which it's where I teach ambitious, faith-driven women how to become confident and courageous on their climb of life and in business. I'm also a breast cancer survivor, and I have to throw this in. Besides being a podcaster and an author, I am a 4-time national bikini champion. And that was something that I'm really proud of to this day. And I'm a mom, and I am just loving life. I'm living life to the fullest at being addicted to the climb.
Well, that's amazing. I did not win the bikini contest. So I entered, and unfortunately it was a women's contest, so they threw me right. I'm just kidding.
Threw you
So,
right off the stage.
yeah, I have to be careful now with some of those jokes, but I'm here to offend some people. If you're not offending someone, you're not telling the truth. You
That's right.
gotta pick a lane, right?
Right. I had to throw that in because that was it was a little out of my comfort zone to do that, but it was really brick by brick. I had to really push myself in ways that I never knew I was even capable of doing. And so it was a proud moment in my life.
So when was that?
2012 and 2013.
Okay. Yeah, I have some friends that are professional bodybuilders, and people don't realize the commitment that it takes to actually do that. It is every little compromise multiplies into a big impact. So the discipline mentally, not just physically, of what it takes to accomplish that. So congratulations on winning the bikini contest. You're already 1 point ahead of me.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So you mentioned overcoming breast cancer. When was that? And can you kind of walk us through that experience?
Sure. That was 2008. And I was actually in the process of opening my fitness business 3 months prior. So I was excited. I'm opening this business for women to train them. And I was opening a Kelley's boot camp. And what happened, I went to the doctor. I got a phone call that I never expected. You know, here I am ready to teach fitness and empower women in their health. And the doctor says, Kelley, you have cancer. And it was just a shocking moment, a rock bottom moment for me, because I felt all the feels, anger, shame, just so sad that this had happened to me. But to tell you the truth, when I look back, the only way I got through that moment was my faith. And I really had to lean heavily on my faith at that time, or else I was crumbling. I didn't know if I could go on. And my faith really got me through. I ended up opening the business anyway to show women that if here I am going through this diagnosis, but if I can do it, you can do it. I felt I had a job to do to lead women so they can become courageous in their lives and just keep showing up for them. And that's what I did. And it really, when I look back, it was beautiful. I think God had a plan. He knew I was opening this business. And yet I had the diagnosis, but if I didn't have those women showing up for me as much as I was showing up for them, it was a win-win situation, really. And that's how I got through.
Well, we share that common faith in God, and it's easy to talk about when things are going well,
Right.
right? You
Yes.
have that faith, but what really makes your faith real is when you have to have it in the valley experience. And so the first part of my entrepreneurial career, I don't know how much you know, but I've started 5 different businesses in 5 different industries, 3 of them with multi-million-dollar exits. And once you achieve that mountain, you're talking about being addicted to the climb. Once you get to the top, it's a very lonely place. And what people don't realize is that you can actually enjoy the climb more than the top of the mountain. And so when you were in that valley experience, how did you process what was happening? Because like you said, you have that anger. It's like, hey, God, I'm doing this is a great thing. You're starting a fitness business. Like, you would expect some sort of promise or blessing
Right.
tied to that. And of course, you get hit with a pretty big brick, so to speak. How did you process that, but also stay active in your faith?
So I want to bring up that I grew up as an only child with the best parents in the world, but my mom suffered with rheumatoid arthritis from when I was born. And I saw that woman go through just awful, awful mental. It was really, it attacked her joints to the point where she couldn't really walk. Holding a fork was very hard, but she always had her faith. She always woke up ready to go. What are we doing today? Nothing was stopping this woman. So as I watched that, I witnessed that as an example in my life. I knew that when I was diagnosed with this breast cancer, I could either sink or I could just start climbing again in my life. And I chose to do that. It all comes down, as we know, to a decision. We can either let the diagnosis take you down, or you can speak to the diagnosis and say, this is not the plan for me. You can speak life into yourself. And that's what I watched my mother do her whole entire life. So I knew if she was doing it, I can do it. And I wanted to, again, show other women that they can do it. Those women in that fitness business was my motivation to just keep climbing. I didn't want to go down. I wanted to fight this with all I had and persevere and just keep showing up. And that's really what it came down to, making the decision every morning when I woke up at 4:30 in the morning to show up for my class at 5 o'clock. I wanted to prove to myself that I'm strong and I can do this, and nothing is going to take me down until it takes me down. And that's what I did day after day. It was really just a mental game that I was playing, and I wanted a win. I chose to bet on myself. I chose faith over fear, which was something I said to myself day after day in the middle of the night when the fear would come into my head and say, are you going to make it? What's going to happen next, Kelley? What if your cancer spreads and you're you die? Like all the things were happening in my life, the spiraling out. And I had to say, I'm choosing faith over fear. I can't let this take me down. I don't want to let it take me down. So every day I had to wake up and say, okay, God, let's go. It's another day that I woke up. It's another day that I can be strong and show other people that I'm strong. And really, that's what I did every single day.
Well, I know I'm feeling the inspiration just hearing you. And the thing that I tell our listeners too is faith and fear are both belief systems. Like
Mm.
you can't have unbelief. So you're either going to believe in faith or fear. Both are made up. You can't see either one. It's a decision and a choice
Mhm.
that you make. And were there any times where you expressed your anger towards God or anger in the situation? Like, how could this happen? Because I like to be real
Yeah.
also. And there may be people out there that are in a position of adversity right now and they
Mhm.
don't have faith. They're pissed
Right.
and they feel like they're doing all the right things
Mhm.
and things aren't going their way. So are there any practical things you can tell our listeners that if they're in a situation similar and they're struggling with their faith, any practical things you can suggest?
Absolutely. And first, I want to tell you, I suffered a lot in my mind. And of course, I was angry. Why me? You ask all the questions. Why did this happen to me? Nobody else in my friend groups had cancer. I didn't know a lot of other people. Why did you pick me, God? And I started to blame. But that's where I really had to take a hold of that and say, God didn't diagnose me with cancer. This just happens. How can I make the best out of this situation? I don't want to stay in my pity party. Staying in my pity party was so much harder than actually believing I can get better. I just started to believe that if God wants me better, I'm going to get better. And I'm going to believe that that's what he wants for me. That's the part when I chose faith. I didn't want to sit in the fear. The fear was causing me to feel more sick in my body. It was causing my mind to just go down those deep, dark spiral, valleys that I didn't like being in. So it was taking me places that were really scaring me. And the only other option, like you said, was we can either choose faith over fear. We can't see either, but I didn't want to stay scared all the time. So I chose the faith because, again, I saw my mom choose faith her whole life, suffering, and she always had a smile on her face. I saw the hope that it brought her. So that's why I wanted to feel that instead of all the fear that was making me have headaches and feel sicker in my body. So when it comes down to it, how do you really want to feel? If you want to feel better, then you have to start believing in something other than the fear, because the fear is just going to snowball until you're really down and out. And that's what fear does. Fear attacks us and leaves us scared, stressed, defeated, not worthy, all the things that God doesn't want for us. So I chose God, I chose faith, and every single day I had to make those decisions. When I woke up in the morning, I had to start with prayer. That was a big thing for me. And if you're not a believer, or if you don't have faith, it's just telling yourself that you're going to be okay. The more you speak life into yourself, the more that you'll feel hopeful. And that's really what you want at the end of the day, to feel hopeful, right? Instead of feeling worry and fear. And that's really where it starts.
No, it's great advice, and a couple of things that you said in there. And as a coach, advisor, podcast host, inspiring other people, I still, every single day, I have to renew my mind. We are programmed daily by society to be afraid, not feel good enough. It's just a constant bombardment. And so every morning you have to take that time to renew your mind. And the second thing that you talked about is the most powerful 4-letter word on the planet is hope. And if you take away someone's hope, then the clock just starts ticking in their time to the cemetery. But with hope, you can really overcome any situation. And so just want to encourage anyone out there that's struggling. The first thing you start with is hope that things are going to get better, belief, faith. And it's not a set it and forget it decision to have faith. It's a constant renewing of your mind. And not everyone was as fortunate as you are to have a great example as a parent. We're all just given the parents that we have.
Yep.
And that's how God intended it. And it sounds like the community of women that you surrounded yourself with. So obviously you can have great parenting examples, you can do your own things, but it sounds like your community played a big role in your journey as well.
Absolutely, they sure did. But I want to share with you one of the mottos that I always say is be the one. Be the one that doesn't go down. Be the one that fights for you. I say your life is worth climbing for. Addicted to the Climb is about you becoming committed to your climb. We all have to climb out of deep, dark places. Nobody's exempt from hardship, no matter what, divorce, grief, cancer. I mean, we all face adversity. But for me, I want to choose to be the one to commit to the climb. Because what else is there? If you're not climbing, if you're not, like you say, stacking bricks every single day, you're going backwards. And I know for me, I don't want to do that. I don't want to stay the same. I believe I was not born average. And I believe you're not born average because you're listening to this podcast. So get committed to your climb. Get committed to yourself that you're not going to go down. You're going to have faith and hope that things will get better, because that's the only way you will climb to new heights. That's the only way you'll break through that next level. And I just choose, that's why faith is so important to me. And I just want to make sure we're clear that we have the choice to do that. Like you said, renew our mind every single day, because I know for me, I'm the same. I have to start my day with quiet time, with prayer, get grounded before the world tries to take me out, tell me I'm not good enough, tell me the cancer is going to come back, all the fears that happen in a day for all of us. But I get grounded first. I commit to myself that it's me and you and God. Kelley, we're going to do this today. We're going to keep climbing, because I never want to go backwards. And I know that you don't either. So that's what it's all about, is getting committed to your climb.
Well, this just turned into a moment of inspiration for Adam House. So maybe I'll just let you host the rest of the show. It's really
Let's
powerful,
go.
everything that you're saying. And you mentioned kind of the Addiction to the Climb podcast. So I'm a guy, as you can tell, and also have a sports background. So a majority of our audience is a male audience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to hear kind of some of the differences we're not specifically for men. That's just kind of how it seems to work out. And most of my guests are guys. So anyway, my whole point here is what messaging do women entrepreneurs and how they're facing struggle, like how are you messaging it differently than you would to a predominantly male audience?
Well, I don't really think it's that different, to be honest. I believe we all want to be courageous in life. So my messaging is all about becoming the courageous leader of your life and choosing that. That's a choice to step into courage every single day, whether you're an athlete getting on the field. You cannot get out on that field unless you are working on your courage, it being consistent, showing up consistently, just like the woman building her business, being an entrepreneur, building that company. She has to step out in courage every single day to keep going, to keep climbing. So that's really what my messaging is all about, is choosing to become a courageous leader, but being committed to showing up in that area every single day. Is that does
No, that
that
makes sense. And tell me more about the podcast. So how long ago did you start it? And
I started the podcast over 3 years ago. And what happened, how I started it, I was listening to another podcast, and the woman interviewing said to the guest, we're all addicted to something. And I stopped the podcast right then. I'll never forget it, because I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think I'm really addicted to anything. I don't do drugs. I was thinking of, more of a drug and an alcohol addiction. I didn't have addictions in my life. And when I thought a little bit, I sat in silence, and God downloaded, "You're addicted to the climb." I've been through a lot of things in my life, Adam, grief and a lot of other things that we didn't mention here that I've had to climb my way out of. And I've been choosing to climb my way out of because of all the reasons I had mentioned prior. And that's why I said I need to get my message out there. I need to help people become more addicted to the climb instead of addicted to the fear and all the other negative things that try to take us out. We can become addicted to the climb. Our lives are so worth climbing for. Feeling defeat. I mean, we're going to go through things in life every day, but God wants us to shine. He wants us to thrive. He doesn't want us just surviving life. We have a choice to thrive in life and climb. The only way to do that is taking one step at a time and choosing courage over fear. Everything we just talked about. And that's how my podcast was born. I wanted to share more stories about how people climb higher in life, how they turn to their faith, and that you can too.
This is great, by the way. And for our listeners out there, if they want to subscribe to your podcast, where do they find it? How often do you release episodes?
I'm every Monday on all the podcast platforms. You can find me on YouTube. I just started my channel a couple of weeks ago, and
How's
I'm on
that going?
it's going.
I'm
Just
laughing because I'm right there with you.
oh
Like
man,
people, they see
yes,
these podcasts and the social media and they're like, they have no clue
no,
all the work that goes into it. And
it's a lot of work.
recording's the easy part.
This is the easiest part of it all.
Yeah.
This is the best part. This is the most fun part. But yes, there is a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into creating everything that we do with the team. We need that team behind us, right, for help. But you can find me there. And I am on LinkedIn is my main social media platform. I am on all of them. LinkedIn is where I show up a lot, so they can reach
Yeah,
out
and
to me.
we'll be happy to include that in the notes, but for people that are driving or working out, so
Yes,
check out Addicted to the Climb podcast.
yes.
And Kelley, I wanted to ask you also about your coaching. Are you still doing the coaching as well as the
I
podcast?
I run my mastermind program 3 times a year. Next session opens in April, and it's for faith, ambitious faith women.
Okay. And how do
Sorry,
people
guys.
learn? What's that?
I
Sorry,
said
guys.
sorry, guys. Sorry, guys.
Well, if you need a male guest speaker, I will bite the bullet and come and share
Sure,
my story. So,
absolutely.
absolutely. So you're doing the coaching, the mastermind. Tell us a little bit more because there's a million different mastermind options. Why would someone join, and what would they get out of it?
Mine is faith based. As I said, it's real digging deep into biblical principles. How can we apply them into our business, into our lives to become more courageous? I'm all about the courage, stepping out in courage. And we meet twice a week. So it is definitely a commitment, and it's a time commitment. So, but it's really a small group. I only take between 10 and 15 women every time we open the session. And yes, it's just for women that want to go deeper in faith and just become more ambitious in their life and more grow in new ways with a community of women that are like minded.
Is it local or is it
We
do
do
they
this
connect over
virtual.
Zoom?
We do
What
this
It's
virtual.
virtual. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And we'll be sure to include that in the show notes as well. And so as we look to wrap up here today, I think again, well, I know your message is resonating, even if it's with one person, because I actually I've been through a ton of adversity in my life as well, losing a father unexpectedly, going through divorce. My wife was actually misdiagnosed with cancer at one point. So they told her she had 5 years left to live and to rally the troops. This was back in 2012. We were actually living in Boston at the time. And so fortunately, it was a misdiagnosis, but it took several months to figure that out. And so I can resonate somewhat with that and then just losing a parent. But look, we all go through hard times. And even if you haven't gone through an experience to that degree, everyone's problems are real to them. So there is kind of this teaching out there, oh, just be grateful you're not in so and so's situation. Well, you still have problems that are real to you. You have to process them.
Yes.
But one of the most important things to get out of that place is to realize that our feelings are not facts, and there is a battlefield for your mind and your thoughts. And so you can control only one thing in your life, and it's what you think and how you respond. You
Yeah.
can't control your health, you can't control your finances, but you can control your mind and your response. And so I just want to encourage all of our listeners out there, again, whatever you're going through, just make it simple. It's not an epiphany to have faith. It's just the simple steps of positive thoughts and believing. And we've talked about the Bible. Just for me, that has always been my cornerstone
Yes.
in my place of when I'm not in a good spot. And I see it now. It's funny. I see all these influencers and social media people like thinking they've come up with new ideas, and it's all been written 5,000 years ago. Like they're just rephrasing Bible verses and
Yes.
making it in common language, but it's all been there. There's not much new under the sun.
Yes.
And so go back to the source of truth. Now, I'm not preaching here. I'm just giving people good advice. So here it is. Kelley, any closing thoughts for our audience today, or anything you wanted to share we didn't cover?
I would just say never give up on you. You have one life to live. Never stop climbing. Place those bricks in over, brick by brick, you'll build that house. You'll get through that problem. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a light at the end of the darkness. So really it's all about your belief. And like you said, we can't control what happens in the world. We only can control our minds and our thoughts. So choose to think great things, and great things will happen to you and for you the more you choose that. I really do believe that.
Well, thank you, Kelley. I'm ready to go climb some mountains because I'm super inspired spending time with you. And I've built my career on never being addicted to the outcome. It was never about the
Yes.
money or my name in lights, even though my name is now in lights. But it's just, again, my wife kicked me out, and she's not kicked me out of the house, but kicked me out of my comfort zone, said, you got to get out and tell your story. People need to hear it. It's never been my goal, but now I'm doing it for other people and not myself, and trying to just make an impact on entrepreneurs and helping them enjoy the journey. So again, I want to thank you for being a guest on the House of Bricks podcast. Next time I'm in Boston, I am going to look you up and hopefully connect. So we appreciate you being on the show. Thanks a lot, Kelley.
Thank you so much.